People thought I was going crazy. I ended up having blood test upon blood test upon blood test. My symptoms were getting worse and worse and worse. I was getting really bad headaches. I was getting bad neck pain. I was getting blurry vision. I was getting heart palpitations. I felt like I was having literally a heart attack. It started going into joint pain. I felt like I had the flu, and I would tell the doctors all these symptoms, and they would just say to me, "You have 2 little boys. I think you have anxiety right now." And I was like, "This is definitely not anxiety. I know what anxiety feels like, and it's definitely not that. There's something else wrong." Test after test came back. Everything was coming back positive, which you think would be great to hear, right? It wasn't, because I knew something was wrong. So went to the emergency room probably about 6 times between August of 2014 and January of 2015. Nobody could find anything wrong. Nobody thought even to test me for Lyme disease. It wasn't until February of 2015 that a friend from high school had posted something on her wall, and I was like, I need to message her and find out a little bit about what she's going through, because I feel like I'm going through the same thing. And I messaged her, and she came back and said, "You have to get tested for Lyme disease. It sounds like you have Lyme." In the meantime, between that time, I had to take a leave of absence from work because I could not function, literally could not get out of bed. So everybody kept saying, "Oh, now you're depressed and you're anxious," and I was literally getting mad at everybody, including my family, because the people that you want to support and love you the most were not believing you, and it was really frustrating. So I finally said, I'm gonna have to be my own advocate here. And this is only one file of paperwork that I've had done, one file to figure out what I had. And so I went to the doctor, and he called, and I said, "Can I be tested for Lyme disease?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, we never tested you for that, and you do have some symptoms of Lyme." And so the next day he called and he told me my test was negative. So I told the girl, Tracy, who told me about Lyme, and she said, "You need to get a copy of that blood work ASAP and show me a copy of it." So my husband drove to the doctor's office, came back, and when I looked at my paperwork, if you look on here, I don't know if you guys can see this, okay? Everything on the top says negative. I don't know if you are seeing it the right way. Oh, believe me, Peg, I found a new doctor. I will not go back to him ever again. If you look on the bottom here, for one of the bands, Lyme Band 23,
it's circled positive there. And when I showed Tracy that, she told me that Lyme band 23 is Lyme specific, and there's no way that that band could test positive unless you had Lyme disease. So I called my doctor back, and he told me according to the CDC for that test, you have to have 2 positives in that area and 5 positives in the area above it, which I showed you I was all negative, to be classified as having Lyme disease, so there was nothing he can do for me. Great. So Tracy told me about this lab called iGenX in California, and you have to, of course, pay out of pocket for it. And she told me exactly what tests to get. And I finally, after all of this in June, I found a doctor that would draw the blood for me, because doctors won't draw the blood for you because they feel like you don't need it. So in June, I found somebody to draw my blood, and it takes 6 weeks to come back. And in the middle to end of July, I got a letter in the mail with my blood results at that time. And if you look here, I was not only considered positive by iGenX at that point, I was also CDC positive. So all these plus signs right here are where I tested positive for Lyme. Okay, that's double positive, mean I had it really strongly. And that's 1 positive where I just tested positive. So it took over a year for me to get a diagnosis. 1 whole year of me feeling like I was going to literally die every single day. I would pray every night that I didn't wake up, that I was going to wake up. Mike, Nicholas is calling you. So one thing I learned is that when you have Lyme, unless you see that classic bullseye and then get on the medicine right away, it goes chronic very quickly. And so after a year, medicine, antibiotics would not have done anything for me at that point. So I went the alternative route, and I found a natural Lyme doctor in Connecticut, and I would go see her, and she put me on supplement and protocols after protocols, which I'm sure you saw my post last year of the a million things that I had to take 3 times a day. It worked to a point, but after that, it kind of did not work anymore. She helped me greatly. She taught me a lot about Lyme. She told me the foods to avoid. So if anybody feels any kind of inflammation or that they might have Lyme, you need to eliminate dairy, red meat, sugar, gluten, and caffeine immediately. All that deals with inflammation, which Lyme is all about. She got me off to the right start, but then there was a point where my body just stopped. So it was October of 2015 last year, and I had to go get blood drawn again to just see things. And when I walked into a lab, I was with my son. I went to a lab that I never ever go to before. It was just there, so I was like, let me get this done now. Walked into the lab, and there was a guy sitting behind the desk, and he's like, you have Lyme? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, have you ever heard of ozone therapy? And I was like, nope. And he's like, well, ozone is going to kill it. He's like, here's this doctor's card, call his cell phone, and he will call you back and answer all your questions. So I was like, okay. He's like, by the way, he's like, I never work here. I go, I've never been in here. It was kind of ironic that I met him there that day. I called him up that night. It was Halloween. On his cell phone, left him a message, and he called us back that night. I was sleeping already, and he spoke to my husband for over an hour and a half on the phone that night. He got me right in to go see him, and since then, it's almost been, I guess, a year come November. I've been doing IV ozone treatments every day. I just started going down to 2 or 3 days a week. Luckily for me, he is in the city, but he lives in Westbury, where he opens up an office in Westbury, which is on my way to work between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. First come, first serve. So I literally get there at 6:30 in the morning. Wait for him to open at 7 so I could be the first one there so that I could drive and make it to work by 7:45 for my first period class. He's helped me tremendously. If it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be right now. So I really owe my life to him. He has really got me back to where I am. He's got me working out again. He has me functioning every day, living my life, doing things that I did normally with my children. And he really has helped me. Like I said, in this week alone, I had 3 people message me about Lyme disease and questions. And so what I can say is that regular testing that you would get done at a doctor's office is so not reliable at all that it's almost a waste of time. If you feel that you have Lyme disease, if you have symptoms of Lyme, hold on, I'm going to answer that in 1 second, Colleen. If you feel that you do have Lyme, I suggest that you order that kit through IGeneX. The kit is free. You could go on IGeneX.com. And you want to get the Western blot, IgG, and IgM tests done. And it takes 6 weeks to come back because it is the most reliable test. And like I said, I took 3 different Lyme tests through regular labs and never tested positive, except for that one band that I showed you in the beginning. They all told me I was negative. And then by the time I tested this lab, it was all positive. Does the Ozone 30 only work with Lyme, or is it something? Oh, no. It works with everything. He has cured so many things. A lot of his patients that he does have Lyme disease, but there are people that go for MS, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, I'm trying to think what else, cerebral palsy. He's gotten somebody with MS that was in a wheelchair, no longer in a wheelchair anymore. The one thing is that whenever you do anything alternative and natural, you have to pay out of pocket for it. So insurance does not pay for it. So people can only afford up to so much money. I think over the last 2 years, and this is no exaggeration, I've spent close to probably $35,000. Yeah, you heard me right. $35,000. In this year alone, from January till, what are we in right now? October, I've spent probably about $20,000 in just my IV ozone. Luckily for me, my insurance does pick up the ozone and covers 80% of it. So if it didn't, I don't know what I would have done, because I don't know if I would have been able to afford doing this treatment. So for me, it worked out. It was like really meant to be. But like I said, my symptoms ranged from just a basic headache to my worst symptom that I still get at times. I get really bad internal vibrating and tremors. It started off with, I'm trying to look for my symptoms list. It started off with, it felt like a cell phone vibrating in my chest, which everybody thought I was going crazy because I would try to make them feel it and they couldn't. Yeah, definitely look into ozone. DIV ozone you want to look into. And then it started spreading throughout my body. It's almost as if, I try to explain it, as if somebody took a tuning fork and hit it, and then you feel that vibration. Well, that's what I get throughout my whole entire body. It's gotten much, much better, but that's still one of the symptoms that stays with me. Will I ever be cured? It's funny, they say once it becomes chronic, you kind of live with it for the rest of your life, that it can go into remission. This doctor, his name is Dr. Robbins, he truly believes that he can cure me. It's hard to tell. I have not retested again. He wants me to retest once the year mark comes up to see if there's any changes. He wants me to get tested for the co-infections, though. He said it doesn't matter what the Western blot says at this point, because I already tested positive, that chances are that those will never ever go away. So it really goes by how I feel. Like, he doesn't tell me you need this many months of treatment and it's going to be gone. It's kind of like he says I tell him when I'm going to stop. So I've been feeling good and I've been winding down, but he says you have to be careful with that too, because it can be in remission. And you don't want to wind down too much and then it totally take over again and then be back at the start. So he says before I really start winding down, he wants me to retest for specifically co-infections like Babesia, the Mycoplasma, the Bartonella, which I know I definitely had even without testing because I just had all the symptoms for them. When I originally did the Lyme list, when I printed it up the first time and I was reading all the symptoms to my husband, he was like, I don't understand why any doctor never said it right away to you, because I had all of them. So these were some of the symptoms that I lived with every single day. Headache, tingling of the face, stiff neck, sore throat, get twitching of the muscles. I got really nauseous. I lost a ton of weight back in 2014, literally lost about 20 pounds. Difficulty breathing at night. Night sweats was a huge one. Heart palpitations. I could not exercise at all. Chest pain. The rib soreness. I was getting mood swings. Of course, I was feeling depressed and having anxiety at that point. Not because that's what I was dealing with, but because people were telling me that I was okay. So then I was starting to get that. Over emotional. I could not sleep at all. I literally would be awake all night. And obviously, if you don't get any sleep, you cannot heal. I was feeling as though I was losing my mind. I really would say to my husband, maybe I had a nervous breakdown. I have no idea. I could not work, like I said, so I had poor work performance. I had to take a leave of absence. I was very distracted, confusion thinking, brain fog, double vision and blurry vision. I had eye pain, joint pain, swelling, stiffness, muscle pain and cramps, numbness in my body, tingling. I would get burning sensations in my head that would wake me up in the middle of the night that I was on fire. The tremors, dizziness, lightheadedness. I fainted twice in my kitchen. These were all classic symptoms of Lyme. I'm trying to think what else here. Extreme tiredness. Symptoms seem to come and go and change, and that's why everybody thought I was dealing with anxiety and depression, because I would say I felt one thing one day and then the next day it was something else, and they all thought I was making it up. And I was like, no, really, I'm not. And even my husband started to not believe me, and he was like, I don't know what to tell you anymore. So I literally had my parents telling me that it was in my head. I had my, even my in-laws telling me. I mean, everybody was like, you need to go talk to somebody. My doctor got me in touch with a psychiatrist, was like, you need to see a psychiatrist. So I felt like I was literally losing my mind at that point. I did see somebody. And she was like, this is not anything. She's like, this is definitely something physical. She's like, I really don't know why you're here. And I was like, you're the only person right now that has believed me so far. So I didn't last with her very long, because I would go there and I would sit there and say, I don't know, I don't feel good. There was nothing else. You know how you feel the day the doctor put their hand on my knee and said I wasn't crazy? I broke down and cried. Yeah, it really, Colleen, when I got the results and opened it up, I had so many emotions running through. One, I was like, I told everybody so. I called my parents up immediately and was like, I told you I was going to find an answer, and this is what it is. I was crying because I could not believe that nobody caught this earlier. There was just so many emotions going through. I know, Henry, I'm so happy that I was able to help you guys out. Seriously. I feel like that my husband tells me all the time that I was supposed to go through this to help so many people, and you can't even imagine how many people I've helped through the years so far. I wish there was more I can do, but I don't even know what to tell people, because I'm living and learning this every single day. So really, that's basically my story. So my suggestion to you guys is, if you are dealing with something that nobody can figure out, don't just believe that you're crazy and that it's anxiety and depression, because when a doctor can't find the reason, it's just so easy to say that to you. You have to almost be your own advocate for everything, and I'm so glad that I had my husband that was kind of like standing behind me and said, whatever direction you want to go in, I'm going to be behind you. He's like, but I don't know where else to go. And I'm so grateful for Tracy, who kept me on that path to keep looking into Lyme, because if it wasn't for her, I probably would have stopped, and I don't know what I would have done. Some ways that you can help it, if you do know that you have Lyme, or if you feel like it might be Lyme, like I said before with the nutrition, you want to cut out what I said, the dairy, red meat, sugar, gluten, and caffeine. You want to try to make your body as alkaline as possible, because bacteria like that can't live in an alkaline environment. So you want to drink a greens drink. I go to Fountain a lot. I drink their greens daily. You want to eat a lot of leafy green vegetables. You want to really make your diet as high alkaline as you can. I mean, you could Google a pH alkalinity chart, and it'll show you everything that, you should be eating. The acidic foods versus the alkaline foods, and really try to balance it out. Aw, I love you too, Steph. I miss you. So, you know, that's one thing that you really can do. Again, like I said, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just mind-boggling, this whole thing, because the tick problem is really bad this year. Unfortunately, these little suckers don't die. They just stay like dormant for a little bit and then they come out. I actually was just reading, and somebody was just telling me today that the deer are actually on the move right now. So there are a lot of ticks around right now. So you really have to check every single night from head to toe. I'm paranoid. I mean, my kids will look at me and be like, Mommy, that's high grass. There's probably ticks in there. I have them so aware of it. Yesterday, Nicholas wanted me to take him bike riding on the bike path, and I was literally paranoid, but I can't just live my life being paranoid all the time. So we did. We went on the bike path, and we were on the bike path for about 3 miles, and I was starting to have a little bit of an anxiety attack, and I was like, all right, Bob, we're going to get off here, and we're going to take the streets the rest of the way back. And as soon as we came back, I checked him from head to toe, checked myself from head to toe, you know, and luckily there was nothing on us. But a tick can be so small, it could like look like the tip of this pencil point, like literally like a speck of dirt. So you have to be really careful when tick checking. It's not going to be this huge bug like a beetle. It's going to be a little speck like this big on the tip of your body. You know, really run over yourself and see if you feel anything. A tick can live on you for up to 3 days, and once it feeds on your blood and gets 3 days worth of blood, it'll just fall off automatically. It's very rare that you're going to get the classic bullseye rash. I literally just got a text about an hour ago from somebody that found the bullseye rash immediately yesterday, and she wanted to know what she should do. If you find the bullseye rash immediately, you want to get on that antibiotic. It's called doxycycline. You cannot go in the sun in it. You want to get on that for at least 6 weeks. If a doctor tries to prescribe you less than that, you need to fight for 6 weeks. Otherwise, it's not really going to do anything for you. If you are lucky enough to catch it within that, you know, couple of day mark, you should be okay. It's not a guarantee. But once you hit the real symptoms, which come about 4 to 6 weeks after apparently you've been bitten, you kind of, antibiotic really isn't going to do anything for you at that point, unfortunately, except for what happens is you get on an antibiotic and you're on it for a while and it works a little bit and it doesn't continue to work, and so then you get on something else. And then you're on antibiotic after antibiotic for so long, and then what happens is that now you're affecting the other organs in your body. It's not good for you being on an antibiotic. So, you know, once you hit that point, you kind of have to figure out other ways to deal with Lyme. And unfortunately, it's really a hard battle to fight. It's something that I live with daily. I am feeling 95% better than what I was feeling. Everybody sees it, you know, but it's hard to say what the rest of my life is going to be like.